Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem. Great to have you with us. We really appreciate you joining us each week on the Israel First TV program, learning about what's happening in Israel, looking at the news and looking at features. Well, one of the things that's recently happened, has been in the news in the Times of Israel, was the Memorial Day for the victims of terror. And Netanyahu has promised, he's urging President Abbas to stop funding terrorists. At the annual ceremony for victims of terror at Mount Herzl, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the Palestinian Authority has spent £1 billion in recent years to jail terrorists. So terrorism is really something that's happening in the news regularly, and to speak to us about what Israel is doing about it and about the work of Yatar, we have Mireia.
Yes.
And Mireia Pons from the Yatar Israel Counter-Terrorism Unit. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming into the studio. We really appreciate that and giving us your time to talk about security, to talk about what's happening about terrorism, the reality of terrorism in Israel. And so firstly, I think you at home, you'll be very interested to hear about Mireia's background, how you came, because you're not originally from Israel, but I think you're originally from Spain. So maybe you can tell us. And this is another amazing thing, by the way. You're from Spain, so you had to speak Spanish. Then you were in Holland, and you had to speak Dutch. And so yes, amazing, so many languages. And
yes, I'm coming. I was born in Barcelona, in Spain. My family, they have a Jewish background that I discovered after. Life is like that. At my age of 19, I moved to Holland, and there I was studying, and I had my businesses, and I met in between my husband. He's from Jerusalem. He was also an officer in the army, and I really much sympathized with Israel, and life came out like that we decided to move to Israel, and we did that in the first week of the war with Gaza in 2015. 2014. It was in July 2014. We moved to Jerusalem, and it was the start of the last war with Gaza. So it was a very strong.
It wasn't an easy time because there were code red sirens sounding, and the army was mobilized. There was a lot of movement of troops, and people were missing from their homes because schools had problems getting people to come in, and we had missiles firing. So you're moving to Israel at that time.
Next day it was starting, it was on the 2nd of July that it started. And I was alone. First I moved with my husband because I had already a job here first I moved with my daughter. My husband was still in Holland. And when I came here, they told me not to worry about missiles falling in Jerusalem. And while I was at home one evening, the first missile that fell in Jerusalem, it was 400 meters from my home. So that was a very shocking reality to have moved.
So did you hear the blast? Or?
No, it was falling in an open area near in the area of Givat Ze'ev. Actually, so it was falling in an open area, so there were no alarms. I didn't know what to do. My daughter was 3.5. I was completely shocked by the situation.
And this is something that people in Israel have to live with. And you came from Holland, and you made your home in Israel, but you didn't immediately go into Yatar or into helping with security in Israel. You originally were in the wine business in Bet Shemesh.
Yes, my studies for 20 years I was in gastronomy and sommelier. I studied different international diplomas. And my husband, after the army, he developed as a chef. So we were much into wine business actually. And when I came here, they took me in one of the best wineries here in Israel to be the manager of the hosting and PR manager of the winery. So that was what I was doing. But it all started where we're going is to the start at Yatar. After the start with the Gaza war, with the Tzuk Aitan, in September, October, all this, the third Intifada started, and families were murdered, brutally murdered, and especially my personal thing with that made me change my mind. It was or change my way. It was the murder of Halel Yaffa, an American citizen that was murdered in Hebron, in the area of Hebron. This girl was 13 years old, and she was killed in her bed, brutally murdered. And seeing the mother, I mean, still now when I'm talking about, I become emotional. And seeing the mother talking about her daughter the day after, in her funeral, on the coffin of her daughter, it was hard. And my mother also, and she said something that really get into my mind. She said that her daughter would not eat meat because of she was a vegetarian, for not hurting anything alive. And this girl was murdered in her bed, you know, and they could easily see this Palestinian terrorist escaping from the home, which it was pretty much on the border, and the police could not do anything because they could not get into it. And that is especially the specialization of Yatar. So it came just, I mean, things happen, and I think they happen for a reason.
So, Anita, like a lot of the people watching, a lot of you watching today support Israel, and we're very saddened by the war, with Gaza, and I know a lot of them watching Mireia will be wanting to help Israel and wanting to do Israel. And even before we get on to how you got into Yatar, they can go to the Yatar website and they can help today. You can help. It's a way that you can support Israel and stand with the people of Israel for security. Now, with this terror attack at Hebron, this was on the television. It was on all the news channels. Every time there is a terror attack, sadly it's always in the news, and
like 50% of the times. I mean, there's even more casualties that we don't see even in the news.
You wanted to help to stop the terrorism and to help to protect Israel. Did Yatar come up straight away, or did you look at other things?
I was looking for a non-profit to do something. I could not stay and look at the next news in TV, and just sitting and just change the channel and continue with another terror attack. And I started to, but actually Yatar found me. It came just in the right time, on the right moment, and the executive director of Yatar, Toriel Raviv, the person developing like on a big scale and all the strategy of Yatar, he found me, and we started to speak, and I started to volunteer by doing my job and volunteering for Yatar.
Maybe we could explain a bit about Yatar, because I know that a lot of you will be at home will be very interested to know what it is, and so maybe we can tell the viewers a bit about how it started, what it does, and its origins, and what it does on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Yatar Israel is coming from Yatar. The name Yatar is coming from Yehidat Traktonim, which it means ATV units. This unit, it's actually Yatar Israel. It's a volunteer police unit. It's a combat.
So the people who are working with Yatar are not paid?
No. No, we are. I mean, now I'm making my living. I have not a big salary like I used to earn, but I feel pretty much that we're doing I'm doing the right thing to do at this point. And but all our volunteers, like the police officers, which are we are volunteering, all the hours that we put on volunteering, they are not paid. So Yatar started in 2005, was founded, and it was a small unit. That they did a lot of good work, and they used to go with ATV racers. Like
this is the buggies we see, and
all-terrain vehicles.
Off-road or all-terrain.
Exactly, yeah.
So they're not like a normal vehicle, are they? Can you drive them on normal roads?
You can drive them on normal roads, but the specialization of these cars are that they are each car of this is a combat unit. There are 4 highly trained volunteers inside, and it's a small car that they can go on dirt roads and on off-road where a lot of persecutions are happening. and we are doing this with normal tourist cars, police tourist cars.
And the problem that you have in Israel is a lot of the security fences have dirt. Some of them have roads, normal roads, but a lot of them have dirt tracks.
Yes, and escape routes. The escape routes. They are always. They are not on many times. I mean, 90% of the time it's going off roads.
And the terrorists, of course, will use something which is less patrolled or less.
Exactly.
There's less people around, so these dirt tracks can be utilised by terrorists to arrive. And the problem you saw was that there was nothing to the normal police cars were not able to use these roads.
Exactly. Many times we in one of our night shifts, what we see is that you get to until certain point and you cannot advance, and then you have to get out of the cars and start doing research by foot. And in the middle of the night is very hard because it's you have a forest and it's different. But when you are much faster and you can advance almost till you get them, this is an amazing work. I mean, every area, we are working in different areas in Israel now. Every area has their own specific requirements. It's not the same work that we're doing, for example, in the city of David or in the Mount of Olives than what we are doing for example, in the south, in the border of Gaza.
Now, if people want to help, Mireia, they're watching today and they say, I'd like to help, Mireia, I'm watching and I'm very moved by the work of Yatar and you volunteer and coming into work with them and they want to help. What's the best way they can help?
Right now, our focus, we are preparing in different areas. We need ATV races. This is the main fundraising that we're doing. That right now is for the ATV areas, for the ATV for the patrolling south area. In all the new area, we got actually we have tremendous news that we got all the area of the Mount of Olives and all the Arab villages that are around of the east of Jerusalem. And for patrolling these areas, which are a lot of Arab villages, and you see on the news constantly that there are police officers who are a target and are getting stabbed by constantly with terror attacks. For these specific areas, we need these kind of cars. Even patrolling, even being more present there, you keep a step down, like you put down pressure, and if something happens, you can be the best aid you can have for these areas.
So the work of Yatar in the Christian holy sites in the Mount of Olives and in the city of the old city, you help the police. Are you kind of like another unit, or do you just go along to wherever you're needed, or how does it work when you?
Like when we started, Yatar was refounded as a non-profit organization because now we can fundraise money. We are actually also a 501c3. That's for United States, we can get fundraising.
So if you're in the United States and you'd like to give, they can do that, and you can process that for them.
Yes,
from
and
the
they
States?
can get tax. They are tax deductible. But for example, as we started with the third Intifada, after what was, maybe you remember this case of the family Benita, that the father was coming back from the Western Wall from the prayers, and he was assassinated, and someone that tried to help him was also assassinated. That was one of the points that Yatar was founded, that they said, okay, now we really need to there was a lot of people that they are highly trained, and because of the work they get, like the payment or to be in the police is not the most lucrative place to be. So a lot of people that are highly prepared, they go to work in high tech or somewhere because they have families, and they give their time and knowledge to be volunteering for Yatar.
So in the situation where there was the terror attack with the Jewish man coming back from the Western Wall, Yatar can help in that you can increase the amount of patrols in the old city?
Yeah, there's one of the problems that we have in the old city is that it's very tiny and very small alleys, and to be patrolling with an ATV, it's like we can fastly get to everywhere. So in that areas there are like all kind of believers coming. I mean, it's a sacred place not only for Jewish, it's for Christians. There are also Arab good persons that are working, and I mean, so it should be safe for everyone. And aside from that, we got a great achievement that we are very proud. It's very new and recent that we got all the area of the Mount of Olives, which is an area that it's very visited a lot by Christians, pilgrims, and it should be a safe place. Not be stoned, not being in the risk that you feel threatened by all the areas around the Mount of Olives.
I guess you're patrolling now on the Mount of Olives?
We started to patrol, but our agreement is to have ATV races, because at the end we are an ATV races
unit. So it's
unit,
like a fast response. So in other words, if something happens, they can radio you and say, something's happened in the Mount of Olives, can you come to a certain place? And because you can get there quicker and more easily.
Yes, we have like a certain people that are working in that areas, and aside from that, we have a police moquette, how you call that, like a central, that we're getting all the calls, and then we're getting everything on first hand. Like then we can mobilize our people in the area to be a part of that.
And it's really a sacrifice as well. The people are giving their, as you've heard from Mireia, the people are giving their time. The people are volunteers. They're not being paid, and they are working during the day. So it's a long day for someone who's working during the day, and then they have to do a shift for Yatar.
Yes, normally our volunteers, they are not volunteering every day, because to have a volunteer that is tired, it might be a very critical point. Who we are taking, the non-profit organization, what is doing mainly is recruiting very highly trained people, retraining them to police officers, because many times they are coming from combat units like from the IDF, retraining them into the police protocol, either the border police or the blue police, the regular police that we have in the cities. And then buying them all the gear, all the clothes, shoes, boots, summer, winter, flashlights, everything they need to be safe. But it's very important that our men are focused. So these men, they are really dealing with terror. Like 90% of our calls, we are dealing with terror. So we need to be very selective about the people that we are putting, that there is no kind of confusion. So our men that are working normally, like putting their souls and their bodies on the first line of fire for no monetary reward, only because of the belief that they really
to make
love
a difference.
Israel. Yeah.
And they're already trained, so Yatar doesn't have to spend so much time in the training area.
Yeah.
But I guess that with the police work, it's a little bit different to being in the army, because you have, having said that, a lot of the IDF are trained to deal with riots and with dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. But it's more specific in that sometimes it's quarrels or there's things that happen that it's more a human, it's a human thing rather than a military response. Yes. So I guess they need a little bit of that kind of training.
Yes, there's a lot of laws, protocols that they are to be followed on the police, that they are working just differently. And also because in each area we are under certain officer or top officer that is giving us orders. Yatar is nothing else than an eighth body, and we are doing what they tell us to do. We just are doing the job that the police is telling us to do.
And Yatar was I think it was recently, was involved. There was a terrorist attack, and a Yatar volunteer was there at the time and was able to help arrest the terrorist, I believe.
Yes, we have a lot of. I mean, the police is very, very happy with the work we do. That's why they want us to be like the main police, volunteer police in Israel. But I mean, we have numerous of accomplishments. I think this one, it was in Jerusalem in a certain terror attack that we stopped, and also like this weekend on Thursday night, maybe you have heard nearby where we're standing now, there was in the tunnels there was a huge suspected. It's not yet released, but I mean, this is some. We stopped a big Julia, or like a cell that they are coming into the villages of like to take stuff from houses, but actually you never know the thin line, because many times they put sprays inside of the houses, and they have knives, they have so you never know when it's passing the border from a crime to a terror attack. So we are called for this kind of and we have every week we have accomplishments, so they're very happy.
And it's a wonderful work you're doing, and I hope at home you'll be able to go on the Yatar website, which is it www?
Yatar CTU, Counter-Terror Unit, and .org.
And there's all the information on the website how you can help and get in touch with them and be part of the security of Israel. That because of your work, it enables everybody else to be at peace and to sleep properly, and you know, it's a very important work. Now, have you got any plans, Yatar, for the future, projects that you're, at the moment you're in certain areas, is that right?
Yeah, well, at the moment we are, we just got I'm going to try to, like, we are fundraising now for the ATV, for the Mount of Olives, and for the area in Jerusalem. Aside from that, we are finishing a recruitment of 50 new people for all the border of Gaza. And at the moment, I actually I'm very saying in small words. I know that it's going to a lot of audience, but we are working for Christian sites like Nazareth and Haifa, which are that sometimes like we know about some hazards and threats in those areas, and we're recruiting people to be in the north too.
So if you're visiting Israel, you might well bump into Mireia's volunteers as they go about doing their very important work of securing the land, and such a vital thing. You know, a lot of what we don't know, we do hear about. We spoke about this at the beginning of the program. We hear about the terror attacks, and very sad, and they're all over the news. But what we don't tend to hear, Mireia, is all the prevented attacks,
Yes.
the ones that
It's so many.
that don't happen either because you arrive in time or because you stop them transporting weapons, or for whatever reason they're prevented from carrying out their terror attacks. So we really appreciate the work you do, and
Thank you so
I
much.
know you're going to want to be involved in this. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Israel First TV program, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Shalom, dear friends. Today we are looking at the name Shavua, which means week. We look at year and months, and now is week. Shavua is very interesting because the root name is Sheva, which means 7. And because you know that we have 7 days in a week. So like at the end of Shabbat here in Israel, we say Shavua Tov, have a good week, have a week full of goodness. We can look also at the name Shavuot, which is the plural for Shavua, and is the feast of the weeks. And we call it also Pentecost, and Pentecost means like 50 days. And the feast of the week is 7 weeks after Passover. So the feast of Passover is the feast for redemption. We come out of slavery, and the Feast of the Weeks is 7 weeks after, when the Jewish people were in Sinai in the desert, and God is going to give them His word. And the Jewish people are saying, yes, we want your word, we want to listen to it, and we want to do it. The amazing thing, the days for Shavua, for the week, is in Hebrew, and for the people here in Israel, not with names of days, but it's like numbers. So it's like day 1, day 2, day 3, exactly like what is written in Genesis 1. So it's Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Revi'i, Yom Chamishi, Yom Shishi, and Shabbat. So you have to see that every single day is linked with Shabbat. Shabbat has its name, but all the other name is like just numbers. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, okay? So it's quite amazing to see that. And also they use it as when they say day 1, when you see on the doors, for example, in a shop, you will have Aleph, you will have a Bet, you will have a Gimel, because the letters of the alphabet is also used as numbers. So it will be day 1, day 2, day 3, and Shabbat will be the Shin. Okay? So this is just amazing. I want to leave you this week with one thought. Just think that from the very first Shabbat from creation, every Shabbat have been sanctified. Isn't that amazing? So I love to explain more about the Hebrew language, and if you want, you can purchase a book that are written. It's not very big, but it's like to show you the beauty of the Hebrew language, to know more about God, to discover more things in the Word of God. You can purchase it on our website, and it's a great tool to be able to know more about also the Hebrew language. And from me today, bye, and see you next week.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today and learning more about what's happening in Israel, particularly with terrorism and the work of Yatar, and having Mireia Pons on the program. Fantastic program. If you'd like to email us, don't forget you can email us at info@israelfirst.org. Visit the website www.israelfirst.org. And remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.